Hello, this is Miss Dogleaf, and I'm going to be reading Chapter 2 of Broken Piece of Paradise by Lyric Writes Prose. Chapter 2. Tansy didn't get a lot of sleep. Tansy had thought she was going to get some sleep, but at 0600 her phone rang and gave her a summons to talk to the captain. She groaned, considered the merits of telling him to spin around as fast as he could and fuck himself in the ass. And then she said, "On my way, sir," and grouched her way up the bridge. The meeting was about Lucky, of course, which meant that Tansy, who had already told the story to the captain, had to recount meeting him. That didn't sit right. It made it sound like it was a cog in the machine of the senior staff. "Did it threaten you?" Jin Hargan asked. "No," Tansy considered. "No, it scared the hell out of me, waking up, but I think it startled it just as badly, tickling its neck when it was fast asleep and thought it was hidden and securely locked in a closet. How physically capable did it seem? It's clearly athletic, very athletic. I get the impression it likes to move and has been feeling really creeped up, hiding from us. Why?" "Engineer Harkin thinks it's military," Captain Latimer said wearily. "It said it worked in human resources," Tansy thought, "and hazard management of some kind. That could be military, or it could add up to be a safety inspector. It didn't tell us anything about what it did." Comm Officer Solomon objected. "That job description was a pile of bullshit from top to bottom." "Maybe for else," Nellie, the helmswoman, said, "but their culture is different. They seem to like to talk around things more. Maybe it's politeness." "Their culture is rotten," Harkin shot back. Nellie crossed her arms. "I mean, yes, they seem imperialistic, but no culture is completely evil because you can't judge it by its leaders." Solomon cut in. "If it's going to give our position away, it's going to be before we reach the old out-system wormhole. That's if they don't know already," Captain Latimer pointed out. "We don't know how much sensors have advanced. After we jump, we're safe until we come out. Maybe safe for good. They may not want to follow us in without knowing what's on the other side. The question of do we want to go through the wormhole not knowing what's on the other side has been hashed and rehashed until all of them would rather chew down a tree than revisit it. The odds weren't ideal. The wormhole read as transversable, which meant that the terminus wasn't buried in a star or something equally deadly, but that's all they knew about the conditions on the other end. The other choices were worse. "It would have to get on the bridge to activate the comms," Tansy said, "and unauthorized people aren't supposed to be on the bridge anyway. If it gets up here, you can tell it to leave. Volunteers to try and move it if it doesn't back down," Harkin says, with a bit of an edge. Captain Latimer looked like he had gotten no sleep at all. "I'm going to authorize 2 small arms to be on the bridge, worn out by one of us at all times. There will be a procedure. You do not leave the gun or the gun belt. You physically pass it to the authorized person who relieves you. And if Lucky tries to force its way onto the bridge, we arrest it. I'm not going to turn this place into an armed encampment." Harkin looked like he had bit a lemon. "There are other places to access comm systems. Most of them are difficult. One involves a spacewalk. We need to talk contingencies for those. It would have to be a systems engineer. It could be short-term immediate hazard management means what the fuck? Is it even telling the truth? Short-term immediate hazard management did something like a security post," Tansy thought. She raised her hand slightly. "Why am I here?" There was a pause. "It seems to like you. If it's at liberty on this ship, which effectively is until we choose to confront it or confine it, which comes with its own problems, you need to monitor it around the children." Tansy felt an ugly jolt. "You think it will hurt the children? It seems to like them." In fact, it had been open and gentle with them that made Tansy trust it more than she had at first. But then, that always didn't mean anything. Did it? We didn't know anything about it, Captain Latimer says, and we need to know more. We need regular reports of interactions you have with it. He nodded to her, a sort of abbreviated bow of dismissal. Thank you for your help. Please call me if anything happens or you need help. It wasn't going to help Larkin's opinion, Tansy thought preliminarily as she got down into the common areas, that Lucky had left the room they told it to stay in last night and gone straight to the cafeteria. Well, galley, but no one called it that, where the kids were. It talked to Inez, one of the teenagers, who was glancing up at it with a slight odd expression. Tansy wondered about the practicality of cornering Inez and asking what they were talking about. Hello, are you looking for breakfasts? I do not need to eat at this time, Lucky said gravely. Hello, Tansy Latimer. It picked up an abandoned cup of artificial milk from the table beside them and balanced it very carefully on the tip of its forearm. It's just Tansy, Tansy said, wondering if that was culture clash or if Lucky just did was odds. Did the kids bother you last night? No. 5 children came to see me. That is not bothersome. It transferred the milk to the other forefinger. The cup showed no sign of spilling. I was asking Isbaranga for information. I need to speak to you about it. Outside the cafeteria? It's just Inez, Inez said, looking down. Lucky nodded solemnly. I will update my information. By the time Tansy had gotten Lucky outside the cafeteria, the cup of milk was balanced on its thumb. It had followed her, so she hadn't seen it stop balancing the cup in order to walk with it, which it surely must have. But even so brief, it had a ridiculous good sense of balance and insanely steady hands. Inez has briefed me, Lucky said. Her information makes it seem a virtual certainty that the younger children believe or perceive unreal things. Tansy sighed. Monsters under the bed. Closets were cited 66% more often, but 5 individuals is not a good example. I mean, you can't blame them. Almost none of them have their parents on board. Leah Solomon, Nineveh, a few of the people have in their immediate family, and some of us are cousins of some sort because of colony size. But even then, I'm not sure how stable anyone like Lieutenant Solomon is considered that his husband is saying, why? For the first time, Lucky seems agitated. I understand removing children. You don't want them indentured. But the company said exactly what they're going to do. As far as you knew, the killing would start approximately when you launched. Roughly 30 minutes after that, there would be no adults left marked as dissidents, only living personnel in the colony who belonged to Barishastranza. We didn't know that, Tansy said. It came more like a gasp. God, her family! She had known, but they told you they were engaging a combat sec unit. Yes, but we don't know what that is. We just knew it sounded bad. It is bad. Killing all the dissidents that fast. How would that even work, with the colony spread out the way it is? People in different places? Luckily handed her the cup of milk and returned from her to pace. 30 minutes is optimistic. It could have taken longer. Longer is better, isn't it? People could have time to get... No! Tansy opened her mouth to protest. Lucky added, longer means that the supervisor wished to make a specific example. Tansy swallowed. Define example. Lucky put its hand on the wall, not drumming this time, before turning. A demonstration of negative outcomes that the company wishes people to anticipate when they defy it. It did not happen. However, it could still happen. It depends. Fancy's throat was very dry, and her stomach felt very cold. Depends on what? They will be reluctant to deploy another combat sec unit. However, taking colonists hostage is not impossible, or taking them for interrogation. To find out what happened. What did happen? There was a long pause. Lucky looked down the corridor past her, and finally smiled minutely, a small, secretive expression. The combat sec unit disappeared into thin atmosphere. My one regret
about stowing away is that I could not see the look on Supervisor Nicaran's face. She was recently part of an attempted action against Supervisor Leonda, and does not have much margin for error. Her action partially failed. Supervisor Leon is somehow still alive. I have not observed her long, but I have overheard subordinates who have made their own assessments. The phrase "about to make fucking lose it" may have been deployed. The smile broadened slightly. This makes me feel positively, Lucky said, in a slight wondering tone. That's a very positive feeling. I like it. Did you need help to disappear the war machine, or whatever it is? The smile disappears. War machine is accurate. That's privileged information. I currently need information about the Cheerios' sensory malfunctions. Every other word that came out of Lucky's mouth, Tansy thought, made her wonder exactly how much machinery Beresistranza had put into it. If it was forced to call itself "it" because of some social custom regarding extra hardware, "it's not my functions," it hears. Their situation is unstable. They're dealing with grief and dread, and it's easier to deal with closet monsters than larger forces like corporations. They're just children. Tansy took a sip of the milk from her cup, grimaced. The artificial stuff was unpleasant, even when cold, and this wasn't, and studied Lucky's expression. "You haven't spent much time around children." Lucky turned away. Tansy, what is it? Can I ask you to do me a favor? What is it? Never, never, until the stars go cold, ask me where I previously encountered children. Ouch! How bad were things in Beresistranza anyway? What had Lucky endured growing up there? Yeah, I can do that, Tansy agreed. I'm wondering if my approach to the children's fears last night was advisable, Lucky confessed. What did you do? Initially, I placed them onto my bed. I had rested all day after that. This worked for 3 children or less. 4 children appeared to be a threshold for disputes. Subjects under dispute included correct placement of use of elbows, adequate disposition of blankets, and unspecified levels of bothering. Yeah, they're kids, Tansy sighed. Upon reaching 5 children, I escorted them back to their rooms, issued a vocal intimidation towards alleged monsters, and made visual inspections of all relevant closets. Actually, that's a pretty good approach, Tansy said. Lucky didn't actually relax its ramrod straight posture, but its voice sounded easier. That's good. I did not actually have operational rules for this situation. I guess your job didn't include monsters, huh? That got her an outright stabbed look. That is incorrect. Well, okay, that was fair. Any person who would unleash whatever the fuck kind of nightmare machine onto unarmed colony was a monster. Lucky probably used to saying yes sir and no ma'am to worse monsters than ever came out of a closet. That's the end of chapter 2. There are endnotes on this chapter, presumably mostly about the expression "about to make fucking lose it," and a little bit of lore about Lucky's supervisor. If you want to read it, go give a kudos to the original author. Here's a blooper. "We didn't know that," Tansy said. "It came out more like a gasp." I should gasp that, shouldn't I?